Right, okay. So, I'm going to
There is no escape.
I'm going to begin with a question before I even introduce the premise of this panel. If you had to put together your party for a JRPG, who would you include it? By your party, I mean your party. Who is the most left-wing JRPG protagonist? And now we've got some candidates on here. We've got Edelgard von Westfeld from Fire Emblem Three Houses. More on her later, she doesn't count. We've got Matthias Regnitz from Trails of Cold Steel. Yes, he hates the nobility. Yes, he uses the working man's weapon, a shotgun. No, he doesn't count because he's a Nepo baby and his dad's a civil servant. We've got Yuri from Tales of Vesperia. He kills a corrupt magistrate. Anyone can kill a corrupt magistrate. The water margin is full of it. No, he doesn't count. We've got Barrett Wallace. He is doing pretty well. He does some terrorism against the megacorps. Unfortunately, he does attack what's basically a nuclear power plant, and nuclear is better than fossil fuels, so I'm afraid he doesn't count. The real answer is going to surprise you. It's Ichiro Ogami from Sakura Wars. He likes musical theatre. He respects women. He respects the French. He respects Italians. He might be in the army, but he is a confirmed canonical anti-fascist in his own game by preventing World War II from ever happening. I will explain. The Sakura Wars is a game set in the Taisho period of Japan. In the Taisho period, which is just after the Meiji period and just before the Showa period.
1920s.
The 1920s.
It's when Demon Slayer is.
Yes. If you have seen Demon Slayer, if you have played the Great Ace Attorney is a little earlier. If you have watched Steam Detectives, which I am aware exists, then we're in this wheelhouse. But the point is, the villain of Sakura Wars 2, Thou Shalt Not Die, which is a subtitle that goes extremely hard, is the leader of the Japanese military. And he wants to militarize Japan and start a war in East Asia. You kill him.
Well, depends on the fatal errors.
By extension, therefore, I choose to believe in this universe, Hirohito never rose to power and Pearl Harbor never had to happen. Therefore, this man who prevents the entire Pacific theatre of World War II happening must be the most anti-fascist JRPG protagonist. We're now going to go to another question because I still don't want to introduce my main thesis yet. Which adorable depressed small being with a strange affinity for small birds has caused me the most mental anguish? That's a very specific question, my friend. And we have a picture here of one of them that's not the answer.
Bong. This bitch.
It is this bitch. This is Diana Caprice from Sakura Wars 5. So long, my love. Which is what I said when I finished playing it. I hate this woman, and I hate her for entirely reasonable reasons, because she's a Christian Scientist. Her entire focus chapter is about how modern medicine is bad and sinful because it can let people live past their allotted time in God's eyes to die.
There's a Star Trek episode about that.
She's in a wheelchair, except, like Dr. Strangelove, it's all in her head. And by curing her depression by the main character telling her to consider smiling more, she was never terminally ill and gets out of the wheelchair.
Issues in that game.
This is the worst chapter of a game that is just generally bad in every aspect, but this is the worst Gundam pacifist stereotype because she keeps trying to, right up until the end, tell you not to fight the bad guys for reasons. She has magic healing new type powers, refuses to use them on anybody because it would be sinful. And the whole resolution to her character drama, in a dating sim where every chapter is, oh no, one of the girls has a backstory problem, can you fix it? It's just, have you tried not being depressed? And it works. I hated this. It's a bad depiction of mental illness, it's a bad depiction of disability, it's a bad depiction of religion, it's a bad depiction of, well, basically everything. And the main character looks like Asahi from Final Fantasy XIV as a kid, and I hate him as a result. Especially because
he's got the generic isekai boy face.
Especially because when he's wearing his pilot suit for the mech, it's literally the sort of white and red trim thing with the gold buckles that Asahi Sass Brutus has, and I hate him. Also, the villain of the game set in New York is Oda Nobunaga, who never uses a gun, despite that being the one thing he's known for.
This game had issues.
So we're now actually going to get to the main thesis of the panel. Now I've got the low-hanging fruit out of the way. What is a problem dragon? Now I've got 3 of them here, and one of them is from something that's not even a JRPG. Now this came from a Tumblr meme that I saw some years ago, basically saying that the problem dragon is when a piece of media externalizes social problems into some force that by beating it, you can return the kingdom to prosperity, or you can seal it away and kick the can down the road for the next generation of JRPG protagonists to fix.
Also known as the CEO of racism.
The CEO of racism is the new name for it. But,
Is it not just Elon Musk?
yes, but the thing is,
It wouldn't help. It would be fun though.
the best example of it I can find is actually the Space Squid from Watchmen, in that a giant external force, in this case the Space Squid, is summoned by the bad guys to cause the world to stop being stupid and unite against an external threat. The thing is, Alan Moore is a good writer, and so he pulls it off really well because Watchmen understands that foreshadowing is a literary device in which things are set up to be relevant later, and that superhero comics are slightly fucked up. The first example is probably the Dragon King from Dragon Quest. He causes problems. He abducts the princess, he causes the kingdom to go into ruin, Erdrick goes on a quest, kills him. That's largely the game. Somewhere in the middle we have Rhea from Fire Emblem Three Houses. She is a dragon, she is a problem, she is everybody's problem, and by getting rid of her, 3 out of 4 routes agree that this will solve most of the world's problems.
Hey, data.
Yes, you can just join her and go, no, we're doing Heaven's Ward now. It's time for these rebel barons to seriously understand that the church does not like you. But fundamentally, the idea of like the sealed evil, the thing that when it's released or when it begins stirring again, it causes the kingdom to go into decline, what you've basically got is the strong men make good times make weak men cycle, which unfortunately has political associations which aren't very nice. So, I'm not going to say all JRPGs are fascist, all fantasy is fascist, but unfortunately we're going to be cycling this drain a little bit more later. Where are we now? Okay, we're going into the first of 3 sections in this panel. Oh, hold up, you're breaking character to go on a suspiciously detailed centrist rant. That is not Seto Kaiba, despite appearances. This is Maximilian Schneider from Growlancer 2, which I believe is The Sense of Justice.
Is that the gay one?
I mean, yes.
That describes most of the cast.
Yes, he is. He is a twink. His dub in the Working Designs dub was done by the janitor, and so he has no emotion in anything he says ever. But the minute you meet this guy after like the whole prologue thing, he finds this ancient artifact and starts saying, I want to end war. I think all civilizations are defined by it. And right, okay, let's get on with why Growlancer 2, The Sense of Justice, is basically the same game as Ace Combat Zero, The Balkan War. And I will explain this thesis now. Right, for anybody that has not played Ace Combat, you should. It's a game where you fly planes. And you shoot a lot of things in planes, and there's excellent music. Ace Combat Zero has a villain whose name is Larry. Larry Falk, or Solo Wing Pixie, pictured here in a plane.
Spoilers, by the way.
Absolutely, yes. I should say, this panel has full spoilers for everything. If you care about this, leave. But anyway, this guy, this bastard, does the whole Metal Gear Solid thing of going, what if no borders? And decides to make that your problem. Now, unfortunately, Growlancer 2 does exactly the same thing. Now, a bit of history for this game. Growlancer 1 is on the PS1, it got a fan translation last year. It never got a Western release. Growlancer 2 is best described as a fan disc or Gaiden game for the first game. It is set about a year after the first game ends, and is entirely about your new protagonist, Wayne Cruz, fixing all the fuck-ups the original party didn't fix when they saved the world. You have 2 villains. Well, it's a bit special. You have Wolfgang, who is... You can join all the villains in this game. You can just go, no, I'm going to kill my whole party and join either of the 2 villains. But you have Wolfgang. He is a mercenary. He didn't get paid. He immediately steals a giant super weapon and decides to start demanding money. Otherwise he will start his own country and start nuking people. You have Maximilian, who the game sets up at the start as being really suspicious when she does this whole thing of, I think war is bad, and I think the only way to make things better is for them to get worse. Then...
Bit of a funny
Yes, and, well, he also, in this scene, your main character, Wayne there, who is dressed like Hiro Yui, plays the ocarina for him, because they are totally boyfriends. Satoshi Urashihara, he of the anatomically correct porn, drew art of these men embracing and nearly kissing, and for the cover of a doujin where they kiss and do more. But, Satoshi Yoshihara did the art for this, which was why, despite it being a fantasy game, everybody's wearing latex. But the point remains, it sets up Maximilian as a bit sus. He comes out with all these really suspicious comments about how he needs to destroy the world to rebuild it from the ashes. Then it looks like he sets you up with a false flag operation, where he destroys a town to start a war. Except no, he didn't do that. Wolfgang found a guy that looks exactly like him and paid him to do it. So you clear his name, and he goes, yes, no, I never did that. Then he does it anyway.
Well, it's double jeopardy.
Yeah. He goes, well, I've already proved to you I'm not the villain, but I am. Takes over the same super weapon again and switches it back on. His plan goes from, well, rather than destroy countries until I get paid what I'm due, he goes, I'm going to mind control everybody, like in the end of Victory Gundam. And I'm going to take away everybody's sense of aggression and create a one-world government. And then you push him off a tower and he does the most hilariously rubbish death screen because working designers paid probably about 50p for all the voice actors. The game is great. It's also really weird that the first game that got localised is the direct sequel Gaiden game to a game that never got localised, sold in a double pack with the prequel.
So you don't get the middle.
So you never actually find out what half the cast of this game's deal is, because it's all, oh, do you remember when Carmine did this really awesome thing? Do you remember when Lyle did this really awesome thing? There's a missable side quest chain where you refight the final boss of the first game because it turns out he wasn't dead. It's an amazing game. It's genuinely good. It plays for any old PC nerdheads. It's basically if they did a JRPG with cannon fodder as the combat system. So you have, it's an RTX JRPG and it's really good. But the decision to localise this one specifically is baffling. Thankfully, after that, 4, which is standalone, got released on the PSP. 5, which is standalone, got localised on the PS2. And 6 got a fan translation last year. I really recommend this series. It's also extremely weird and extremely horny, and much gayer than you'd expect for art from a guy that mostly draws straight porn. Let's get on to some mental gymnastics that you have to play when you play a lot of JRPGs. The Empire is doing bad things. It's because the Emperor is working for some kind of ancient evil. But are the people in the Empire complicit in this? If there is such devastation, who's intending it? Is it the guy that's doing it? Is it the mysterious glowing black shadow that's giving the orders to the Emperor, who's giving the orders for his bad boyars? Is it the bad boyars? Who knows? All we know is that at some point somebody from the enemy team is going to become a member of your party, and it might be Nero. So, I'm going to briefly talk about Trails of Cold Steel here, because it both buys into this trope a little bit and avoids it. Because the reveals at the end of Cold Steel 3, setting up Cold Steel 4, do suggest that there's some serious dragon problems in Erevonia, but I think it largely avoids doing it as actually, perhaps evil is nothing to do with the actions of individual people, it's entirely about other forces. No, it does actually accept that sometimes some people are evil, and that the supernatural elements can just make it easier for them to do their job. Fundamentally, though, what a lot of fantasy fiction has, and what a lot of RPGs where you need to be able to have a member of the bad guys do a face turn and join you, is how many of their war crimes are you going to let them write off with just I'm going to fight the Demon King now. And I'm going to go on a brief digression here to actually talk about Shah, because you can't not talk about Shah. Fire Emblem was referencing him in, I believe, the very first game. He is, arguably in Zeta Gundam, he is a bad guy that joins the good guys, but then you realise his politics never change, just the world gets so shit, his politics become virtuous for a little while. And then he's back on his nonsense again by the time of Shah's counterattack, where, I'd actually say, I mentioned this before, Shah perfectly follows the sort of UK leftist academic career path. He starts off as a tanky, basically upholding terrible regimes and going, well, I'm actually secretly working for the greater good here. Then he goes, well, actually the world's gone bad here and fascism is ruling. Maybe my extreme politics against this institution were virtuous. And then by then he goes, I still believe in all this stuff. He doesn't actually believe in any of it, but he just largely wants to be with his podcast friends, in this case Amuro, and have arguments. Unfortunately, this becomes dropping asteroids on Earth, That's where the metaphor kind of falls down, or if not, the Guardian has a lot to answer for. Right, how about a JRPG where the main character might as well have never turned up? Star Ocean 2.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Star Ocean, I describe it as Star Trek written by people that hate Star Trek more than J.J. Abrams. It's a weird game because the villains might as well be just pulled out of a hat. They literally are. The main character might as well have never turned up. Whatever you did has no bearing on anything, and you win by killing several million people. Right. 2/3 of the way through the game, the main character's planet gets destroyed by the villains, who are these guys escaping. They are called the 10 Wise Men, and anybody at the Metal Gear Solid panel might be going, oh no. But yes, these guys are a bunch of supervillains that were locked up in supervillain jail by an advanced civilization called the Medians, who are supposed to be really cool, blew up their own planet because they scienced too hard. And so they became Space Wakanda and decided to hold all their technology for themselves. Then realised that they'd hoarded all their technology in the same vault that they locked up all the supervillains. The supervillains escape, and they went, but we sealed away all our technology. Now we can't beat these guys, but they've got it. Right, okay, so you and the main character go on a fetch, you and all the party go on a fetch quest for the last third of the game, travelling around this tiny little space colony trying to find the weapons that will destroy the 10 Wise Men. And you do it, it doesn't even make like a big deal. Like anybody that's played Expedition 33, forging a sword is quite a big deal in that game. Like there's an arc involving getting the weapon to do the thing. In this game you literally just go to a bunker and you find it. And then all of a sudden, all it does is it just switches an event flag on the boss fights, and these are now no longer mandatory unwinnable. Like nothing changes, you don't get any cool new particle effects, it doesn't change the sprites of the villains. Their health bar just goes down now. This is how cheap we're talking. And then you get to the top of the tower, and you find this universe-destroying machine, because the supervillains want to destroy the entire universe. And they switched it on. It can't be switched off, except by blowing up the space colony need that you've been trying to save for the back third of the game, which, due to a time wibble, brings back the planet that was destroyed at the 2/3 mark of the game. But the main character doesn't pull the switch. Some random, village elder pulls the switch, doesn't tell anybody he's going to do it, and so destroys an entire civilization in the process, giving them no warning or chance to evacuate. The game then frames this as well, actually we made the noble sacrifices of people. No, you didn't. One guy did it for you. To remove ourselves from the galactic sphere because our scientific hubris potentially destroyed the universe. No, you just made consecutive bad decisions and then resolved it in a way that meant the whole game is completely pointless. The final boss also only has one form. Like, you go to the top of the tower, you fight this guy, and you think, he's going to be well off. No, it's just a guy. It's like if the whole of the end of Final Fantasy VII was just the 1v1 with Sephiroth. And you kill him because you've got 6 guys and he's got 1, he just dies. I don't like Star Ocean, and I'll be getting back to this. Right, okay, did anybody do the Mayor of Castle version of GCSE set text? Because I'm all over the place with these references. Anybody know Thomas Hardy's novels? Right, okay, this joke is going to fall completely flat. But Tales of Grace's F is basically a Victorian novel in JRPG form because the main character's dad sells his brother. Ooh. Right. This game is very stupid. There's a lot going on with the ending that I didn't have time to include, where the main character is absolutely adamant he cannot let a woman sacrifice herself for the sake of the world, despite the fact him sacrificing himself in her place would achieve nothing because he doesn't have the magic she does. It's like, main character Kun, I must complete this ritual to seal the villain. No, I cannot let a woman sacrifice herself. But you literally don't know how to do the ritual. I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. And then I think the ending just goes a bit FF13, where they talk a lot about the potential of humanity and evolution, and it works. Because you can't have stakes or meaningful emotional conflict, especially not in a mid-tier JRPG. But due to plot bullshit, the main character's best friend, who is a mysterious girl that falls out of a tree and lands on him and such things, gets involved in an accident and everybody thinks she's dead. The main character's abusive dad gets on his case about this. Now, he is canonically an abusive dad, like it is in, I believe, some of the skits that, yes, he beats his 2 children. Right, this guy is not a nice man. And so the main character, quite rightfully, goes, well, Dad, I don't think I should be held responsibility for what happened to this person. I'm 10. And so he runs away from home. But before that, his terrible dad goes, in order to punish you, son, I'm selling your brother to the enemy nation as a ward of court.
Ooh.
This leads to an arc which I'll come back to later, because this game is not getting off lightly, where said brother returns in a very stupid ecological parable. But yes, the main character's brother gets sold, the main character's dad beats him, and so he runs away and joins the army, because of course getting the hell out of Dodge is a really good idea. He then comes back and learns his father died of old age while he was gone, and goes, oh Dad, I wish I could have forgiven you in person for all the things you did. I wish I'd been a more dutiful son and a better person, and then you wouldn't have had to have punished me so much. And it's like, oh, you're not doing this, I hate this, I hate you. So, yeah. Like, also the fact that the dad dies off screen and the main character isn't even there removes any potential emotional weight of an arc about, well, did the dad realise he was wrong at the end? Did the son mature at all? Was there any chance of dialogue? No, it's just, oh, I joined the army, and when I came back from my first tour of duty, my dad died of old age. Guess he was a great guy after all. He wasn't a great guy. Tales is not getting off lightly, because we're going back to it. But Tales of Arise. We're featuring Privileged Man from Privileged Planet here to tell you that slavery is bad except when it isn't. Right, you get a double header of incoherent political commentary in this game in its middle arc. The whole first act is, I, the main character, was a slave. The evil empire enslaved me. I found one other person that's not okay with this, and we are going to start killing people until the situation changes. And I was quite hyped for this. Because anything where it starts with, oh, the evil empire is directly causing me problems, I'm just going to start killing and not asking questions. I'm quite in for that. Unfortunately. Then you meet Dohalim, this guy. Quality design. Really interesting. Oh, look, we've got a potentially important character, and he's not white. A party member. That's pretty good. But you go to his zone, because for some reason this world, it exists in proper like video game logic. You go through the 5 levels of slavery. Like there's 5 zones and they've all got slightly different political messages going on. And his one is, oh, what if we went to a place where the slaves were happy and well fed and nobody seemed to be suffering? Oh, I don't like this already. And then what if we did those who walk away from Omelas, but framed around a really bad slavery metaphor? Oh, this is getting really bad now. Because it turns out the secret of all this is this king guy never asked how his kingdom was prosperous. And it turns out it's because they're literally putting orphans in a blender. He has the lake of liquefied slaves, which is the secret of eternal life and prosperity. And nobody asked. It was literally behind a door at the back of his dungeon, and he never went through it. And yes. So he then has a slight emotional crash out and then goes, oh, actually, that was quite bad. Am I a bad person? Can I join your party? And everybody goes, yeah, sure, we're never going to talk about this again. Then we go to the next zone, where everything is all burnt out and destroyed. It's like, oh, what's going on here? You meet an NPC and says, congratulations, you've captured the evil witch that was enslaving all the people. This is great. And I'm thinking, oh no, if they've mishandled the first political allegory so badly, what are they going to do here? And surprise, surprise, the head of the resistance is a suspicious-looking, brawny guy in an eye patch who wants to burn this woman at the stake without a trial. Because, of course, you can't have a resistance movement in a game made after 9/11 that isn't somehow worse than the oppressors. And so, yes, they do this whole thing of maybe they've got the wrong person, but nobody's listening. The crowd just wants blood. The crowd want to burn a woman at the stake. They don't care about trials, they don't care about anything but vengeance. Except they all got played because she is a powerful witch, and their racism has basically been used as fuel to liquefy all the people of the town in her final spell so she can become immortal. And it's like, you have just managed to not only set up an absolutely reprehensible take on rebellion and resistance against oppression, you then undermine it within 30 seconds of introducing it, basically. Because, heaven forbid a game make a point, even if it's a bad one. And that's a problem that I think we're going to be coming across a lot in all these examples, is that not only do you get bad takes, not only do you get occasionally entirely reprehensible opinions, but because this has to be a game where the main character has to keep proceeding forwards and the world has to keep moving on to service their story, nothing has any time to breathe, nothing can have consequences, nothing can have any time to be thought about. But now let's actually talk about a game that I'm sure some people in this room might like, but unfortunately I have questions with. Right, it's for another few years of Three Houses Discourse, with some excellent memes from Tumblr, courtesy of my good friend in the audience. She braved the minds of Edelgard Discourse to find some top memes. Right, Three Houses is actually a really interesting setup if you know anything about early 20th century history. Because it's a game about the decline of the old orders of nobility and the sort of the gentlemen's agreements where, yes, Napoleon might be invading your country, but you still got to invite the French to your social gathering and marry your daughters potentially to a French woman or whatever. But the point remains, you've got this tension between academia, high society as a place where political boundaries don't really matter, and then war happens and suddenly they matter quite a lot. I like this. I like the idea of, again, potentially about convincing people that the institutions their families represent are wrong, of testing like the decline of church power in the face of the landed gentry. Unfortunately, the game does absolutely nothing with any of this, and because it has to have three routes where every character is simultaneously good, bad, recruitable, and romanceable. Which means nobody can be a character. They just have to be a blorbo who occasionally does bad things if you don't recruit them. It also gets to the point where, much like in the opposite of Mass Effect 2, if you play the game really well and recruit everybody, there's no emotional punch in the back half because you're fighting NPCs. Much like in Mass Effect 2, if you don't bother doing any loyalty quests, the whole suicide mission thing in Mass Effect 3 doesn't work because everybody's dead. So the whole emotional thing of your party falling apart doesn't work because the party's a bunch of literal who's. Okay, the other problem is Three Houses is fundamentally a Battle Shonen academy. Everybody is a special boy who is the best at their particular thing and has about 1.5 character traits. So to any attempts to do a nuanced political story about the overwhelming force of the church, conservatism and all that, you're not starting from a good foundation. But let's take a moment to talk about Edelgard's ending. Well, I've got some memes. Right. Her ending is one PowerPoint slide of, and then Edelgard declared herself Empress and ended classism and oppression and inequality by killing a lot of people and removed the nobility from the picture. And now this is shown by her stepping on people with a sword and not in the nice way. And now there's been a few examples in other fiction and history of attempts to remove one entire bloodline from the picture. Did it work with the Targaryens? No. Did it work in Caenriar? Have you played Genshin Impact's patch 6? Did it work with the Romanovs? Also no.
I mean, they are all dead.
They are all dead, but did it prevent the Russian Civil War? No.
Russia's still
It
Russia.
killed them after the Civil War.
My history is also bad. But fundamentally,
I mean, they were kind of not a non-entity during the Civil
Yeah.
War. They were all locked up.
did
And then they
removing the
died.
Tsars solve Russia's political problems? Probably not. It has problems. But fundamentally, resolving the entire interesting conflict of your game, which is you have a system of magic eugenics where, people are genetically superior, where the nobility are magically empowered to rule in the divine right of kings is very real. And then reducing it to one PowerPoint slide, we just killed a bunch of people and it just stopped.
You didn't even kill all of them.
No, and then we can move on to the real problem, which is the lizard people that live underground and run everything.
I'm
Well,
not sure if you're serious here.
no, I am
that's
entirely
true,
serious.
That's true. That's
The lizard people have nukes and giant
true.
robots.
And every single unsympathetic character in the game is actually secretly a lizard person.
This David, I tried this.
Cheryl, I was going to say that.
So,
It's mostly because they want to be cowards and not actually wanting to be characters who could be sympathetic in one route, doing
Tell me
anything
the
bad.
lizards are Jewish coded.
they have clown makeup and are goths.
Oh, what? Hold on. Clown makeup and goths.
Yes, like the first one you fight is like a goth clown girl. It's weird, but fundamentally,
She is hot though.
yes, this is true.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
But
Are they recruitable?
no, you have to kill them. But fundamentally, as I say, what we're getting to here is the big problem is that the interesting political conflict of Three Houses can't be included in the game because it's generally about how you fix the situation that is beyond the scope of any of your characters during the game. And because the game was all about your choices matter and all that, well, the choices somehow make Dragon Age 1's character interactions seem developed in terms of how you recruit people and fill them. It's very much like Morrigan likes that. Sylvain didn't like that. Felix doesn't like anything, which is why he's the best character. But fundamentally, it is another example of a game because it's got too much going on with the lizard people and the evil church and all the political drama going on that none of it matters. And also that it just doesn't give the core conflicts about like the needs for checks and balances on the upper classes and like any time to do anything, because heaven forbid a game say anything nowadays. Right, okay, I've introduced one dubious historical reference. Now it's time for fate to come into this. Right, okay, I said I wasn't going to make references about current events, but here we go. First of all, a Trails joke for people. That is an actual statistic somebody found. Tio Plato is the one who talks about the Epstein files the most in the Trails franchise. But, right, what if level 5 tried to do Fate?
Oh God.
Yes. This is Jeanne d'Arc on the PSP. This is Fate Zero. Both of these characters are the same historical figure. Now, Gilles de Rais is a problematic fave, I think we can safely say. He's nobody's fave in Fate. But
It's funny as fuck.
In
He
either
is.
of his forms.
But fundamentally, he has a couple of historical claims to fame, one of which is being a paedophile, and one of which is being the inspiration for the fairy tale Bluebeard, a man who killed a lot of wives. So, yeah, level 5 decided the best way to depict him was as a sad Bishonen, whose parents never loved him, who joins your party at the start of the game and then never does anything evil afterwards. And yeah, this is just a brief digression into possibly the most dumb rehabilitation of a historical figure that absolutely didn't need rehabilitation ever. And let's be clear here, Fate has some problematic faves in it, but even Fate decided people like Gilles de Rais and Columbus were not going to be sympathetic. Fate is more progressive on Columbus than most of American education. And that's something that's quite depressing to think about.
In Fate, Columbus is basically a sailor.
Yes.
I mean, that's
They remember
it's
all-
in real life.
He
as well.
continually talks about how cool he is for doing all the bad things that he did in the history books. So they remember he did bad things, and that's actually a better way to say a lot of non-fiction about him. So, we're through the dubious political bit now. And now, well, what's the other thing so much anime, so many JRPGs love to talk about? And that's the environment. So, I'm very glad we managed to stop using clean magical energy because the vibes are off. Let's go back to fossil fuels. And, yep, the crystals, not great, not terrible. So, we're going to get back to her later, and the Chernobyl meme is just to set this up. But, fundamentally, I've got no problem with an environmental allegory in fiction. I've got no problem with something saying, maybe we need more renewables, maybe we need less cars. I'm fundamentally somebody that thinks that pollution is bad and that things could be better. Unfortunately, a lot of JRPGs grasp at this, but because fantasy and science fiction are inherently limited in how they can realistically depict complicated real-world issues, a lot of the time you don't so much get, maybe over-abusing the planet's resources is bad. You get, actually the problem is science. Just we're drawing a line here, the problem is science. And I mean, overconsumption is the problem here. And yes, as Barrett says, Shinra is sucking the life out of the planet, and that's why we need to blow up reactors. But then you have a look at the optics of how so many of these stories do this. And it's, we've got these glowing crystals that are in reactors, and they're bad because they're destroying the planet. And wait a minute, there's some real-life power stations that have glowing things in reactors, and people are very het up about the idea they might be destroying the planet. So we clearly need to not build them, and instead build more coal plants.
Germany.
Also, solar panels are woke or something if you listen to all these terrible people. But fundamentally, so many environmental messages, once you're into the realm of magic crystals, become nuclear bad. And I personally think nuclear good. Chernobyl did a lot for the PR of the nuclear industry, to be fair, so did Windscale. And we'll be actually getting back to Windscale in a minute, because historical references are a thing here. But I think it's a bit of a conservative thing, almost in a way, that when you're making a story about depletion of the planet's resources, if you don't want to directly say oil, because the internal combustion engine doesn't exist in your setting. It's very hard to find a direct comparison because in the time frames of pre-modernity, coal is never going to be a problem running out. And then unfortunately the optics just turn back round to, glowing rock bad. Right, I'm going to briefly mention Wild Arms here because this is a series I actually like, and this is a rare moment of positivity in this panel. Let's be zen for a moment. Wild Arms is great. It's a series of games that are Weird West JRPGs that are basically Trigun, but with giant robots. You've got cowboys, you've got giant robots, you've got sci-fi, and it does a really quite good and nuanced story of scientific hubris is destroying the world. Because it settles on the, well, okay, the ancient civilization realised their scientific hubris was destroying this planet. And then they started inventing even more machines to try and reverse this, rather than just not exploiting the planet so hard. And you play as the people generations down the line who have to deal with this problem. And it's genuinely really, really good. The best way into the series is Wild Arms Codex F on the PS2 is a remake of the first game. I've been playing that recently, it's really good. 2 exists somewhere, I think it was on the PS1. 3, 4, 5 are all on the PS2, all have localizations, and if you like Trigun, you'll love Wild Arms. It's great. Now, what is the biggest cause of environmental consternation in certain parts of the world? It's golf. And why is golf a problem? Because people keep building golf courses in deserts. We're back to Tales of Grace's F, where you have to fix the water crystal. So, here is the main character's brother, Hubert. He was sold, as you may recall, to the villains.
I'm not saving a Hubert.
I mean, unfortunately, you have to. He comes back and immediately invades the main character's country, saying, "We have no resources in our prosperous desert country. We need your resources. We need your crystals." And the main character goes, "Well, what the fuck, brother? You used to be a nice guy. Why are you invading my country for its oil? Crystals!" And he goes, "Because we have none." And then you go to his country and it's a desert and they built a water park. They are the country of the water crystal.
Oh, so they're Dubai.
They are a desert and they are Dubai.
Or Las Vegas.
Yeah. And, well, the great thing is, you've found Pascal, the most annoying character in a game of annoying characters, who is a genius scientist who goes, "Oh, your water crystal's not working." "Oh, that's a water crystal. I'm going to hit it with a hammer and then it works, because I'm the
They forget to plug it in.
Yes, they literally turn it off and turn it on again and it starts working. And rather than going, "Oh, well, we've learnt something here, we overused this crystal, we overheated it, we perhaps should be more thrifty in our use of our limited resources," no, they go, "Well, that's great, we can have water park again." But, because the Tales series, as I mentioned before, is allergic to ever thinking, what happens then is the actual villain of the game immediately turns out and just blows up the water crystal. So the whole thing was completely pointless, because they can't have any resolution to this, because, I guess, reasons? So they set up a conflict. They then undermined the conflict entirely by saying there never was a conflict, these people just didn't know what they were doing. And then they undermined the solution to the conflict by having it just restart again. And that is somehow not the stupidest thing that the game does. Wow. Right. Okay. So, now we're going to talk about when JRPGs try and do Wolfenstein. And this isn't going to be good. Alright, what if you punched a Nazi so hard you exploded the Earth? Checkmate levels. Right, this is Star Ocean 4. They didn't get better. Right. This all takes place in the course of one dungeon of the game that has nothing to do with the main plot. This is just a random thing that happens on the way to your next plot point. But the main character, whose name I forget because I reminded myself of it, through an excellent Let's Play, and I'm going to say most of the screenshots from this come from the YouTube channel Vicus, or @Vicus3, who, him and his wife, love bad JRPGs more than I do, because they have apparently put 600 hours into this game trying to 100% it and haven't succeeded. So I had to find a screenshot where like the main character wasn't called Bingus. But anyway, the main character, and this kid, who is bad, she has a speech impediment, and they decided to dub it every time, due to a hyperspace wibble, ends up on Earth. This is Earth in 1957. America won the Second World War, lost the Cold War, and turned into a fascist state. because they were scared about losing the space race, so literal Nazis took over. America is ruled by people in Hugo Boss uniforms, who are all strangely Aryan. Now, because the Nazis are scared about nuclear power, they want to steal the main character's warp core and use it to invent cold fusion. 1957, I'm just going to go on a digression here, is a really interesting year that they picked for this. Because in 1956, M. Kim Hubbard published his paper about peak oil and the imminent energy crisis in the late 20th century. And in 1957, the Windscale fire happened, the UK's worst nuclear disaster ever. Now the problem is, in real life, the Windscale fire was covered up in the UK, so the Americans wouldn't learn about it and impact their nuclear programme. But I'm sure this was a guess from Tri-Ace, because Star Ocean 4 was largely written out of contractual obligation. But it's just interesting that they got one thing right, that 1957 might be a year when people were a bit concerned about nuclear power. The problem is, rather than the main character turning up and seeing that his home world of Earth, in this timeline, has become a fascist state and going, I'm going to start punching Nazis, he discovers that the Nazis have kidnapped a cat girl who is not wearing many clothes. And he goes, you can't do experiments on this cat girl. What do I have to do to make you not do experiments on the cat girl, Dr. Mengele? And he goes, sell me your warp core. So he does. The main character sells the Nazis a warp core. They switch it on, Earth explodes. Literally, that is how the dungeon ends. You fly away on your spaceship, and Earth explodes in a warp core-related incident caused by American Nazis in 1957.
What do you mean that just happened?
You then get back to the main plot.
Well, it solves some problems we've got now.
Do you resolve any of this?
No!
Oh, I mean, it exploded. That's pretty damn
Does this
slow.
have
It's considered a failed timeline.
Quite resolved.
I mean, are we sure we're not in one of those now?
So apparently this series just likes blowing up planets.
And Nazis for some reason. And also
the
the
Nazis is always attacked.
And well, no, that's the thing. The main character doesn't. He helps them because he feels bad.
Well, the main characters are fucking idiots.
Yes, he is. Also, in the Let's Play, I will say the canonical name for the cat girl, who is also a lolly and also wears basically no clothes, is Miracle. In the Let's Play, they called her Mistake. It was exceedingly funny. Right. Thankfully, I'm sure you'll be pleased to know we're getting to the end.
Oh, thank God.
So, did anybody play Metaphorically Fantasio?
I started on it.
It's fairly good. It's fairly good. But did you know it wasn't the Persona team's first attempt to fantasy JRPG?
Right where this is going.
Death Bros?
No. Stella Deus, The Gate of Eternity on the PS2.
Oh.
Art from the character designer for Persona 3. I think writing from the writers for Persona 3. It's actually a really good Final Fantasy Tactics clone. It's got some slightly obtuse secrets. I don't recommend pursuing any of them, because a lot of them just involve redeeming really awful characters that don't deserve it. But it's it also takes a very long time to do anything. It has loading problems, and I'm just going to point to this Final Fantasy XIV quote. For if you wanted to play it, you might want to keep that in mind.
So fucking regulations.
I saw that when I was doing the new Deep Dungeon thing, and I thought I can make so many jokes that will piss Nintendo off about that.
Valid.
But fundamentally, the game is quite interesting. You have your main character here, his idiot friends, who discover that the planet is largely dead because the supply of magic crystals has run out. Villains up here. And, well, when they discover that the villains are probably responsible for the environmental depletion of the world by harvesting all the magic spirits, a three-way discussion between the main factions of the game turns up that absolutely sums up online political discourse. At the top, you've got Princess Lumina, who says, the planet is dying, we must surrender ourselves to God's will and pray for a slow and painful death as we can't do anything about this. You've got Dignus, the villain, who says, I am Elon Musk and I think what we need to do is hoard what resources remain and oppress the planet even harder so I can personally have electricity when everybody else is starving. The main character actually bothers reading the plot and says, hey, if we just find the Gate of Eternity that's in the title of the game, apparently it's a source of unlimited energy. Why is nobody listening to me? And I choose to believe he's talking about renewable energy in this situation. So, yes. Also, Because, as Garth Marenghi has told us many times, writers who use subtext are cowards. The main character is called Spell, which means hope.
Wow.
That villain have nipple piercings.
Everybody has nipple piercings. She does. He does.
That man looks like he has several.
This guy also has a Dr. Eggman moustache. He's the best.
I'll be honest, until you zoomed in on that, I thought to me, fucking hell, did they knock off Gallagher?
Alright.
He's got the same hair colour.
Now, it turns out we're actually at time, but I'm going to carry on talking until I'm asked to leave. Because
No,
we
that's
haven't
fine.
even-
That was just me getting stuff.
Okay, we haven't actually even started talking about religion yet. And this is going to take a while. Now, as people know, the best thing to do when you're a young Antifa activist is attack and dethrone God. But we need to establish some terms before we do this. Right, let's talk about Sakura Wars again because I want to be happy. This is the ending of Sakura Wars 1. And this was the first JRPG that came to mind when I was looking for examples of the Judeo-Christian mythology actually being in a JRPG as it is that wasn't Shin Megami Tensei. Right. So, the main character's girlfriend is a demon. She dies, but he still loves her. Now bear in mind you can't romance this girl throughout the game. You still have to have picked a girlfriend from the rest of the harem. Because the final dungeon does a Sailor Stars thing where all of the girls sacrifice themselves so the main character can try and fight his evil girlfriend. It turns out that the Demon King possessing her, despite the entire game thus far being about yokai, is biblical Satan. Like, we're not kidding, it's biblical Satan. Because then, your dying girlfriend uses her last breaths to explain Paradise Lost to you. There is at least a 10-minute cutscene explaining the fall of Lucifer and the man's expulsion from Eden and such. Because, surprise, your girlfriend is the Archangel Michael! No, but she does give you a mech one. She unlocks the super mode of all your mechs by returning to heaven and giving you a literal divine intervention, so you can fly up into the sky and fight Satan, who is a big man. It's amazing. It's great. It's just, it doesn't even try and go, oh, this is like the demon killer. It's just, no, I am Satan from hell, in the Bible. And it's great. Also, they had to retcon the fact your dead girlfriend is the Archangel Michael for the next game by introducing her twin sister Lock-on Stratos style. Because they realised the main character had too much game if he could romance a literal Archangel. Also, she is a good girl. She's not the best girl in the franchise, but I could talk about Sakura Wars for an entire panel. This was just me introducing the one example of a JRPG where you don't even kill God, but you do get to stick one in the eye to the Bible. Let's define some terms. Everybody makes the meme about how in a JRPG, emo teens fight God. This guy's not an emo teen, he has fought more gods than most JRPGs. There's quite a lot of mythological precedent of people attempting to defy the gods. Unfortunately, because hubris is a word coined by the Greeks, it doesn't normally end well. So, what does it mean to fight God? Well, a lot of JRPGs have people that want to become God. They want to acquire divine power. They want to assume themselves the living embodiment of the divine will on Earth and use that power to reshape it in their image. Sometimes they do it to conveniently remove half the population. Sometimes it goes wrong. But fundamentally, a lot of stories about killing God are very, very, pious. Because, taking a moment to return to the Ten Commandments, you shall have no God but me. False idols, bad. Attempting to impersonate God, bad. And most of these JRPGs are somebody collecting the magical thingies to acquire the power of God, but not having the mandate of heaven. And I had to include that at least one point. Right, so, I've lost my notes. Here we go. Right, but there's also the point where organised religion is the villainous entity, and that often leads to, well, the head of the religion as a physical entity is bad, and we're back into the bad advisors just following orders thing. But I'm going to briefly talk about Heaven's Ward here because I like Heaven's Ward. There, organised religion generally bad, the head of the religion extremely bad, and you go up to his space station and you kick him in the balls so hard he explodes. And
That's a good time.
it's unfortunately a very easy raid because of power creep. But fundamentally, Thordan is a great example of fighting God. And it leads me into my next point, actually, which this slide has very little to do with, But not enough fantasy in general, and only very few JRPGs, explore the difference between religion, as in almost the D&D sense, of actual gods interfering with the lives of mortals, and religion as some kind of social force, like it is nowadays, like the old lady doing the church cake donations and that kind of thing. And the Trails series really does it quite well, because you go through a lot of Sky, and the church is teaching children their numbers. It's doing generally nice things. It's got the whole demon fighting, magic powered guys off to one side. But most people don't know they exist, and most of the time it's just, oh, the church is in this town, and that's where the kids go to school. That's really nice. And Heaven's Ward, again, like the Ishgardian church, it's got the social aspect, the kind of people will go to mass and clearly pray for death upon all the dragons. And that's largely different to one old elf pope going, maybe these Ascians might have a point. But when you get rid of him, it just goes back to, presumably the Ishgardians are still praying to Helone, and like the whole point of their religion hasn't really changed. It's just, well, that guy was an absolute rotter.
Didn't we kill her?
Yes,
Yeah.
Miss of the Realm is special, and I don't want to start talking about it.
It's fine. It was, you know.
But there's two games here, actually. One of them is a very late edition, and I'd like to extend an apology to the Tales of series for doing things right in at least 2 games. Tales of Destiny does actually have the idea of the organised arm of the church being the villainous part, because it's acting contrary to God's will, because it's hiding what God's will actually is, which is interesting, and basically how Mormonism works. And Final Fantasy X goes even further into having folk religion, practiced religion, and a religion existing on a supernatural level, and it adds football, which is a religion for most of
All that
England.
water quite nice.
Yes, but the metaphor works better if it's football. Right, and there's one last thing that I did need to include in this, which is an example of a game that realistically depicts what would happen in a fantasy setting if you went to your priest and said, supernatural stuff's happening around me. And in Wild Arms, their answer is thoughts and prayers. You start the game with Cecilia having a literal vision from God, and she goes to a nun to ask what's going on, and the nun says, can't help, sorry, I'll pray for you. Yeah, sorry, I am on my last slide. So.
Yeah, no worries.
So that's how I'm ending this. And I do have, I have one last slide, but I'm probably going to have to breeze through this, which is I was going to rant about Final Fantasy XVI's ending, and how Ultima was a really bad villain, but we don't have time for that, so you're spared it. The end.
That's the way it sounds. Thanks for the humour. Now die.